and welcome to News at 9, speaking for you since 1972.
Today we have a special segment planned, a series of interviews conducted to uncover the true nature of American society and the place of each individual in it.
We've collected a number of these individuals who all cry the same foul, a regime of oppression based on gender, race, economics, and ideologies.
And looking to be the melting pot, American society steals away individuality, creating a hypocritical mirror to our American freedoms.
We'll follow Paige first, going on site to see if we can get a more detailed description.
Sorry if I'm jittery, old sport. I don't usually give interviews.
It's good to talk to you, Mr. Gatsby. So what do you think? Has American society oppressed you?
Well, yes, certainly. I mean, I think everyone knows the story at this point. That American dream that everyone talks about, it's a lie. I mean, the idea that you can climb up in the world, just look at me. I have the biggest house, and the nicest parties, and the nicest shirts, apparently.
And where has it gotten you?
Nowhere. Not into East Egg. I mean, I thought by making enough money I could move there and make Daisy fall in love with me. Isn't that the American dream? Working your way up?
But that didn't work?
No, old sport, it didn't. Society has carved a nice little line in the sand that no one can cross unless you were born into money. The American dream has limits. In America, there are places you're not allowed to go, no matter how high you climb. And there are things you simply can't just do.
Poor people, like Gatsby, oppression.
So would you consider this economic oppression?
Well, I certainly would. I remember one time I was going to go out to lunch with a few East Siders, but they thought they were so above me with their old money and their horses that they just left without me. Does that sound like I've achieved an equal status as them, even though I have as much or more money as they do?
No, it doesn't, and I think that's a very good example. And one more question, Mr. Gatsby. You say that the American dream has failed you. So, have you gotten over Daisy yet?
Absolutely.
He loves me. He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not.
No, really. Hey, old sport, that's not good form.
Well, on that note, I think your story has given us a very interesting insight on the issue.
You're welcome, although I do have one question for you.
Oh?
Frankly, am I supposed to be dead?
Well, why would you think that?
It's just that the other day this random woman came up to me and started hugging me and saying she was glad I wasn't dead.
What did she look like?
Well, she had reddish curly hair and a fluffed skirt, and I don't know, I thought I heard her name was Melissa?
Oh, well, I'm sure it's nothing.
Oh well.
Well, don't you give up, Mr. Gatsby.
Don't worry, I have enough fighting spirit to keep on going forever.
You heard it first here, and back to you, Grace.
We have here one Edna Pontellier, who seems to have something to say on the topic of oppression. How are you, Miss Pontellier?
Barely surviving.
Could you elaborate?
I couldn't begin to tell you, but I suppose I could try. Tell me if this sounds fair. As a woman, I have had to choose between getting married and becoming a slave to my husband and children, or living as a free-spirited artist, but alone as a social outcast.
Oh, so you're saying that women don't have any chances in life?
None. We are broken like animals. A dear friend of mine, Mademoiselle Reyes, once said, an artist must possess the courageous soul, the soul that dares and defies. We must dare to stand up for your right to live, and we must defy the society that oppresses us.
Women, like Edna, they're oppressed. So do you think you have the courageous soul?
I don't know. I'm fighting to have it.
Actually, we just got word that some people watching think you should go live with Mademoiselle Reyes, and that you should just quit men altogether.
I don't think I'm at liberty to do that. To be honest, I don't think I'm at liberty to do anything.
Oh, so what do you intend to do?
I think I'm going to go for a nice, long swim.
Oh, well, have a good time with that. I hope it makes you feel better.
You just don't get it, do you?
And now, with Bigger Thomas.
Mr. Thomas, how do you feel that America has oppressed you? Do you think you have limited opportunities because you're black?
hijacking this news station. Not because we're communists, but because that's how we roll.
My name is Jan.
And my name is Max.
We defended Bigger when he was tried for the murder of a rich white woman.
It wasn't fair. Everyone believed that Bigger was guilty because he was black. But just to make it worse, they thought he had help because a black person wasn't smart enough to cover his tracks.
He only covered it up because it was an accident.
Yeah, no kidding.
He was only trying to avoid being blamed for something that wasn't his fault. He was sick and tired of paying too much to a greedy real estate CEO who was making sure he could only afford to live in a plywood box in a certain area of town.
Black people like Bigger aren't given a chance to make their lives better and chase the American dream. Now that's oppression. When I was defending Bigger, I even said to the judge, "Your Honor, injustice blots out one form of life, but another grows up in its place with its own rights, needs, and aspirations. What is happening here today is not injustice, but oppression, an attempt to throttle or stamp out a new form of life. And it is this new form of life that has grown up here in our midst that puzzles us, that expresses itself like a weed growing from under a stone in terms we call crime. And you know what that means? It means that every time someone stands up for what they believe in, they get crushed."
Black people like Bigger, they're oppressed. But it's not just black people. I was reading this encyclopedia and I found it in the 1950s.
It's only the 30s.
People are only suspicious of communists, but they're putting us in jail and firing us from our jobs. In fact, they're even arresting people who aren't actually communists. You can get put in jail just for having the wrong people dislike you. We have here our last interviewee. How are you, Mr. Thoreau?
The rain feels lovely.
So, I understand you have personal experience with the tyranny of American society. One of your essays?
Civil disobedience. At the time, there was a war going on in Mexico that I did not agree with, and as means of protest, I refused to pay money to the federal government to fund that war in the form of my federal taxes.
And they threw you in jail.
Yes. And they would have kept me there if not for the misguided kindness of someone paying my fines for me.
Thoreau, he had different beliefs. He got thrown in jail. That's oppression.
Simply, America pursued that war in the first place out of greed. They built railroads that corrupt the earth out of greed. Society loses the desire to appreciate our world out of greed. If you do not have that same greed, then you are subject to persecution.
Do you feel that you're un-American because of your feelings?
No, I embody what America used to be. Courage, freedom, individuality. And take my friend Walt Whitman, for example. He feels the same way, and he's the most American person I know.
There's nothing more American than babies! Thunderstorms are American! Growl! Do you want to know what's so American about American literature? It's from America! Duh, punks!
I see.
Either way, I think I summed it up in Civil Disobedience. I said, "This American government, what is it but a tradition, endeavoring to transmit itself unimpaired to posterity, but each instant losing some of its integrity? This government never of itself furthered any enterprise, but by the alacrity with which it got out of its way. It does not keep the country free. The character inherent in the American people has done all that has been accomplished, and it would have done somewhat more if the government had not sometimes got in the way. That means that the American government, which in this case is interchangeable with the mob mentality of American society, proves to be a burden on each generation. Society doesn't free people. Brave individuals free themselves."
Like all the people we've talked to today.
Yes. If you need even further examples, my fellow transcendentalists and I inspired a whole new generation of poets who also fought against the grains of society. The beat poets. They too wanted true individualism, but as one of them wrote, "They are scattered now, dead or silent or blasted to madness." This embodies what all of us have done. We have all fought for our individuality, and most have lost due to the sheer power of this country.
That's true. You ended up in jail. The beat poets were scattered. Edna died. Gatsby died.
What?
Proctor died. Bigger died. Vietnam vets were traumatized in ways we can't imagine.
Exactly. Oh, it's time for me to go, but before I do, here's one of the notebooks that many of the beat poets shared. Use it if you can.
Kind of smells like...
Yeah, I know. They didn't get that from us.
Well, I guess we'll cut back to the studio. Thanks, Mr. Thoreau.